Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
This is Ed Cohen, and it's the 4th of January in 2022. I'm in San Diego. The sun is shining. It'll be about 65 degrees, and which is actually cool here by the water. When the wind comes off the water, you need to have a scarf or a heavy sweater because it's quite cool. The sun is warm, but man, it's 3 p.m. even in San Diego. 3 p.m. it starts getting darker at this time of year. The sun may be out, but it loses its intensity, and you start feeling that cool air. So it's really interesting. Anyway, that's enough of the weather report. Our special guest today is Dr. Andrew Woods. Dr. Woods and I have known each other a long time, more than 10 years. He has spoken live at our meetings in Vancouver and Seattle and Silicon Valley area. And now we do Zooms. Well, someday we'll get together again. Here's Dr. Andrew Woods.
Hey, Ed, how are you?
Thank you for being on the show for the, umpteenth time, I think. So you're in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is the closest thing to the U.S., but not being here.
Okay, yeah, it's about 20 miles from the border. Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, okay. So you've recently just had a snowstorm there, which is very unusual, isn't it?
It is unusual, and we don't get snow very often here in the Lower Mainland, but everything just grinds to a halt. I mean, I think there's one city plow that's in operation, and maybe not even one, and everyone's slipping and sliding off the roads, and yeah, so it's a big thing, but it lasts 2 or 3 days, and then it's gone.
So the last time I was in Vancouver, I was in the downtown area and stayed in one of the tourist hotels with the windows overlooking that big lake and the mountains in the background. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a beautiful city. I mean, it's got a lot of natural beauty and just benefits from where it's located.
So a long time ago, I took the family following one of my conferences in downtown there. We went up to Whistler. And it happened to be over the weekend of July 1st, which is Canada Day, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And the 4th of July, of course, is America's Day, right? So this was 1 July. And it was like the first time I had been out of the U.S. as an American. First time I was out of the U.S. Over the 4th of July time. And here we were in the middle of this Canadian celebration with the Royal Mounties on horseback coming down the streets with the Canadian maple leaf flags, and it was really festive and very well done. I was glad we were there, but it was really unusual, and we had a great time.
Right. So it's a unique experience for you.
Yeah, it was good. So we were in Whistler for the first time, and of course it was summer, no snow, but a lot of hikers, and it was the first time that we had come across this real estate deal whereby individuals or companies would buy rooms, hotel rooms, and then turn it back into the hotel to manage. And the owner gets a cut out of it. Now it's every day.
Commonplace, yeah.
Right, but back then it was like the first place that we as a family, which the family has several properties, but not owned that way. So it was really interesting. And we learned quite a bit about it after that. And then all of a sudden we see that springing up with like the Marriott vacation properties and now all these others as well. It's the same concept.
Maybe Whistler came up with the model, who knows?
Yeah, it could be. So, Dr. Andrews, you help businesses find new customers.
Yeah.
Tell
Um,
us more about that.
new markets, Ed. As you know from our various conversations, I've spent a number of years living in Asia, in China in particular. So I help organizations to enter these markets not only through contacts and connections, but through giving them an understanding of the culture so that they don't make common mistakes when they're entering these markets. With the current sort of negativity with the U.S. trade war with China and a lot of these things, we've expanded our reach. So we're using connections in the UK for companies that want to expand into the UK, sort of an entry point to Europe, and also doing a lot of work with ASEAN. So the countries of the ASEAN grouping, which would be sort of countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, absolutely booming economies. A little bit slowing down due to COVID, but they'll bounce back again. But we see China as a long-term play because it is one of the world's, if not the world's largest market in many areas, that it's gonna, we'll get over this period. And I think that, we can't escape the need for organizations to expand if they are expanding into China and the rest of Asia as a whole.
So let's talk about that just a bit here. I do want to focus in on the UK and post-Brexit and special things that are possible. Um, and this is not politics, it's just business, but boy, global, when you talk about global, you're mixing it together for sure. So from a geopolitical economic point of view, NAFTA, trade agreement between Mexico, US, and Canada, has been updated and expanded and redesigned. And other than for COVID, I can't even say it right anymore. It's booming. The middle class in Latin America, not just Mexico, but Latin America, is spreading and growing. And of course, Canada is red hot as an alternative place and as a global hub, a growing global hub, as you well know.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about for a second, and we'll swing back,
Sure.
Singapore,
Okay.
because you talked about the ASEAN area. ASEAN, ASEAN.
South Association of Southeast Asian. I'll work on the end.
Yeah, whatever. Nations, I guess.
Nations. It is nations.
No,
You're right. You're right.
okay,
You're right. I had a little fog, brain fog there.
No, it's all right. You got to be camera ready, so you can only think of one thing at a time here. So Singapore is booming, red hot, and was always an alternative to Hong Kong, but now with the political issues overtaking Hong Kong, it's almost tragic to see what's going on there. But business still goes on, just like in Shanghai, right? Business still goes on, even though, the Communist Party can be very intrusive, as we're seeing in Hong Kong. But Singapore is wide open still, right?
I mean, Singapore, a lot of my friends from Hong Kong have moved on to Singapore. Singapore is a booming area. All of that, I mean, you look at all of those areas that they're all on the rise. Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam in particular. I've spent a great deal of time in Vietnam, and I see a lot of countries
Never been there.
diversifying their supply chains and looking at Vietnam as a strong India as well, but looking at Vietnam as a very strong alternative. Absolutely booming. Love the place. Love the vibe. Super energy. Very fast moving. But a great opportunity for Western companies is to look at these other options. I think China is somewhere where you want to get a foothold and sell into, but you want to carefully plan it. And maybe that's something you look at doing a little further down the road when these relationships have, what's the word I'm looking for? When these relationships have become, I mean, there's a lot of animosity, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of fighting words between the two countries in particular. I think China has a lot of opportunity for the long term. In the short term, if you're looking at expansion, I always advise people look at countries that speak the same language and have the same culture. If you're nervous about expansion, go into the UK, go into parts of Europe, and then use the UK as a launch pad. You mentioned Brexit. I mean, there's a lot of funding and opportunities for foreign companies if they're looking to actually do some serious business in the UK. There's a lot of opportunities to partner with the government if on the funding side. But I look at China as something that's not going away. It's a very serious business location and somewhere where people need to keep an eye on. And if they're a big enough organization or even small organizations, make that jump, but do it when you feel comfortable doing it.
Interesting, isn't it? So
Hmm.
Brexit, I know,
Yeah.
and I know you have extensive background in the UK. So it seems logical to me that the US and UK, or at least Great Britain, England, um, should, we should welcome them into the NAFTA type of program and just link it all together. It's just economics.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something they do in the future, but I think it's a very strong. See, one of the challenges I find with Canadian companies, American companies, is that in particular a Canadian company, if I come to you and I say, well, I can help you get into the UK, I can help you get into Europe, I can help you get into Asia, a lot of people are thinking, well, hang on a second, I'm a small to medium sized enterprise in Langley, BC, and I want to sell to Americans first. I want to go that route first, and then maybe look at somewhere like Mexico. So it's quite regional. It's only the slightly bigger or more people that are more likely to take a risk that will say, okay, let's go into the Far East or let's go into Europe. But there's huge opportunities everywhere. And I think that successful entrepreneurs by nature will grab whatever interesting and new and exciting opportunities there are. So there's just lots of opportunity anywhere if you're willing to go for it. But one of the things I hammer home to all potential clients is that if you're going even to the UK, you still need to understand the cultural norms and we spend a lot of time with people helping them to understand the differences in culture between the US and the UK and to avoid offending people. Of course, the divide or the gap is much smaller between America and the US than an American company saying, oh, okay, I'm going to set up in Vietnam now. They need a little time to understand that market. The UK market, there might be some rules and regulations, some legalities, but generally culturally, there'll be a couple of things that are different, but it's not that difficult. Going into the Far East, there are going to be challenges culturally as well as, and the amount of mistakes, Ed, over the years I've seen foreign companies make when they try and go into China or Vietnam, cultural mistakes that cost them a fortune. You know?
And it could be legal trouble as well if they're
Yeah,
not
it can be.
careful.
It can be.
Okay, so let's talk about doing business as North American, we'll call it that, which means Mexico, as well as Canada and US.
Yeah.
Um, I want to expand more. I want to produce a conference in London. Um, I wouldn't mind doing a conference in Belfast, but I'm not sure anybody will go. And if I do a meeting in Dublin, yeah, well, we'll get a nice group. There's lots of multinationals there. But London's the financial capital.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm looking at doing in 22 in late April is to do a meeting in London, in the city. And our very first, going back in history, our very first global event live was in November of 97, and that was in London.
Okay.
And it was in the Hilton Hotel, just north of the Marble Arch. And
Oh yeah, I know that one.
yeah, it was, yeah. So anyway, we had at that point, and this was my first meeting outside the US, we had over 100 people, probably 150 people come from mostly the UK, but some Americans and some others from Amsterdam, Paris. Interesting. And it's like easy to do. Not without some tricks, but uh, not so much in Paris. Amsterdam is relatively easy as well because almost everybody speaks some English easily. And in Geneva, it's a global financial market. Nobody wants to speak English, but they do.
Okay, yeah.
So, and we've done several meetings there since. So, in terms of selling a product, though, a physical product,
Mm.
okay, like this pen, for instance, how can me as a business manufacturer of this pen here in California get a market share in today's UK?
Oh, I think the first step would be to do your research before you even get on a plane, see what competition you have, and then see how you can find similar people either to myself or like just people who have a lot of connections in these markets, and they can sort of help you with barriers to entry, what you need to get in, any legalities, but more importantly contacts. Then get over and have a look at it. The more, when I first moved to China, I remember reading every book under the sun, Mr. China, a billion customers. It was a billion customers then. It's now 1.4 billion. But these famous books on teaching people how to do business over there. But until you actually get over there and do it, it's a totally different thing than reading it. Just like people say, well, you can go and study an MBA, as I've done in the past, or you can go and do business, and what you're learning in the textbooks is not going to be quite the way it is actually in the live scenario. So I say get out there, learn the market, meet some new people, and then decide whether it's feasible, it makes sense, and then if it does make sense, go for it. But it's actually, as you just mentioned in your story about, it's actually, if you go for it, it's you're probably going to find opportunity. There's opportunity everywhere if you're looking for it.
So I know you have some personal experience in retail in China. And so for me to come into China and sell this pen, it would appear to be suicide. That would be a suicide mission
Mm.
because in
That pen,
China they make pens a lot cheaper than I could
yeah,
make it
that
here.
that that pen might be seen as suicidal, but if you have something, there's still a lot of kudos in China among the middle classes of Western products. So if you went in with that pen in particular, no, it can be replicated very easily. But if you went in with something that was unique, so sort of like a Mont Blanc. That's a great example, actually. Mont Blanc does a booming business in China because those pens are seen as elite. There's a lot of knockoffs you can buy. I remember someone gave me a Mont Blanc pen and that was a knockoff, and I went to sign a contract, and I looked very professional and wonderful. The second I put the pen down, the whole thing burst open. The top flew off and the works. It was then that I realized that I had been given a knockoff pen as a gift. Um, but uh, but yeah, I mean, no, there's loads of opportunity, and yeah, I say to people in many ways, forget about all of the political stuff. That's at a higher level than most businesses operate at. There's still huge amounts of opportunity in China, but look at other markets too. I mean, there's just when you take off the what are those called, the blinkers,
The
well,
blinders.
the blinkers that the horses use, when
Oh
they're
yeah,
moving
right, right.
straight. I think people need to realize that there's a whole world out there, and if you're a business, you just get out there and seize a market. Say, okay, I'm a business in United States, or I'm a business in Canada. Let's go look at what Morocco has to offer for me, or let's, and maybe some of these choices that aren't the obvious choices, but certainly selling high quality Western products into China, into Vietnam still has a little bit more time to go, in my opinion, to build that middle class that can afford more upmarket products. But China, the middle class is huge. It's bigger than the entire population of the United States, and they value Western products. So if you've got
Interesting.
a
Yeah.
unique product, and then going back to our earlier conversations about the UK, I mean an easier market, maybe not maybe when I say easier, there's going to be a lot of competition there. It's an advanced economy, but if you've got something that has sort of a unique selling point, then if you find the right people, you can get in there and you can grow there as well. The key message 2022 opportunities anywhere if you go out and find them.
So let's circle back to you and your time in Vancouver. You've been a professor at two or three colleges. And so one of the things that we talked about the last time you were on this program was the joy and the energy coming from the students in the room. And many of them were Asian.
Yeah. So for many years, I've been cooperating, teaching as an adjunct professor at MLeon, which is a French university, but they have a campus in Shanghai. So when I spent time living in Shanghai, I made a relationship with them. I went in and I taught. At the beginning, I taught sales and negotiations, and that was sort of my first course with a Western perspective. And it was great because half the students were Chinese, and the other half were French students who had come over from France on a semester trip to sister school, if you will. So Emilion is based in Lyon and Paris, but they have campuses in Casablanca, in India somewhere, I can't recall now, and in Shanghai. So the dynamics of these classes were fabulous because you had the Chinese negotiation style going against the French negotiation style. And we had some wonderful, heated negotiation simulations. Now, what's interesting, as we were discussing before we came on air here, was that is that online teaching is something I've always thought, oh, I don't like that because I love the crowd, whether it be only 10 people or 20 people or groups of 100 I've had in classes at some point in different universities. Um, but the dynamics are fabulous. But I thought that'd be taken away with online. So instead of, and it's sort of a weakness here, is that normally I like to try things and experiment with new things, but I thought, no, online, not interested, and turned down a lot of opportunities. Recently, excuse me, recently Emilion came to me and said, we don't have an instructor for cross-cultural negotiations. Would you like to do a 12-hour course? This was in the month of December, 4 weeks, 3 hours, 12 Chinese students. I thought, ooh, online, how am I going to get that enthusiasm across to these people, and how am I going to draw in their enthusiasm? Loved it, had a wonderful time, and even wrote Emily on saying, like, I might not be in Shanghai right now, but I'm more than happy to do online anything, in my scope. I'm happy to do that. So I love teaching online, and it's great when you teach different students because the Chinese students take a while to warm up, but when they do warm up, there are some of the ideas and the concepts blow me away because they're culturally different from what I'm familiar with.
Hi, this is Ed, and I thank you for tuning in to Global TV Talk Show, a unit on globalbusinessnews.net. We broadcast to the world, as you know by now. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that our programs are advertising supported. We're grateful for co-sponsors, advertisers. They have a marketing budget coupled with a strong desire to be associated with our top quality program. And of course, I'm grateful. Thank you. So for the next few minutes, you're going to see some commercials. It's mostly very low key, and our prices are very, very reasonable. Our exposure for the advertisers go 12 months and beyond. Some of our advertisers have been with us since March, April of 2020. And Google Analytics has tracked over 125,000 what they call audience page views, which means you looking at this page, that's a page view. Now, if you happen to go to one of our other shows or to our radio broadcasts or to our newspaper or magazine, those become additional page views. as measured by Google Analytics. And so when they say 125,000 since spring of 2020 up through Labor Day, a month ago, that's pretty good numbers. And the past 30 days, Google Analytics has measured just under 6,000 audience page views. And that, according to them, is a 42% increase in audience participation over the month of August. So thank you very much. Well, here's our advertisers, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes or so, and we'll proceed with this interesting conversation. Thank you.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Hi, I'm Sergey Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we're researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
So in this online thing that you're talking about, these were younger people, or were they women?
This group happened to be all women. It was a 12 group of 12. Just a coincidence that it was all women. And it was a group of 12 students. And yeah, they were all women. They were Chinese women based in Shanghai, and nothing was lost in the online experience, which really surprised me. So one of the things I love, I'm a businessman at heart, but I love, as you know, public speaking, getting on the stage, as we've done with some of your conferences and events. And moreover, I love teaching because I feel that I'm giving back, but I feel that I'm also gaining. I learn sometimes more teaching Chinese students than they're learning from me, in my perception.
Tell me if you can. This is not rehearsed, obviously, audience. But I mean, tell me if you can. Thinking back now, one question that a young Chinese lady asks you in that course that will exemplify what you're talking about.
I can think of multiple really questions that were to do with a lot of stereotypes that they after they completed this course and completed the year up until June, this particular cohort goes on to Lyon or Paris. None of them had been to France before, and it was really interesting to hear. We were talking about the concept of stereotypes, and it was really interesting to hear what their stereotypes were of the French. I'm going to tread very carefully here, but they would ask me questions. They would say, "Do you think all French are rude?" And I said, "Well, no, because I've spent time in Paris, which is a big city, where I remember in the late 90s running to get a Eurostar, speaking with my French-Canadian French. I said, "Excusez-moi, où est la gare?" I meant to say Gare du Nord. I pronounced it gare. So I actually, instead of saying Gare du Nord station, said, "Excuse me, sir," in French, "where is the war?" And the man said to me, "Le guerre, c'est fini, monsieur." And then he kept walking. "The war is over." And that to me was sort of like, wow, all French. So I took this sort of wrong approach. All French people were arrogant. And then I spent a lot of time in probably about 10, 15 years ago when I was living in the UK. We used to holiday in Brittany. So a friend of ours had a cottage in Brittany, and we would holiday there. I thought they were the loveliest, most down-to-earth lovers of life, joie de vie, is it? Just enjoying the food, enjoying the pace, super friendly. So you're looking at a big, fast-moving city where, people are, if you stop people in London and you say, "Excuse me, can you tell me where Buckingham Palace is?" 9 out of 10 people will also walk, especially if it's someone in a different language massacring the language. So that person was probably in a rush and thought, well, but back to your question. So they asked a lot of fascinating questions about culture. We were studying, we were looking at different models of cross-cultural communication, including the more famous ones like Hofstede, which has been around for years. And they were asking me sort of where France fits on some of those sort of like a risk avoidance, power distance, these various ways of looking at and comparing and contrasting different cultures. So a lot of the questions were sort of fascinating because they went deeper than, one of looking at Chinese culture. There's this whole notion of face. So I've taught at schools where, and power distance as well. So I've taught at schools where the students don't want to challenge you, so they don't ask you any questions. And I now start all presentations by saying, all workshops with students that are in China, by saying, I know it's culturally, that you're going to ask me questions later or keep to yourself. No, that's not how we work here. So I make a larger part of the mark about class discussion and participation. So I kind of force people in a friendly way to open up more. And once they do open up, that's when the stories are fabulous. And then I realize how little I know about that culture, even though I studied my doctorate in Chinese culture, well, business culture. And, I really could live there another 100 years and not really understand it. But anyway, yeah.
Wait a minute. You wrote a book on Guanzi, right?
Oh, gee.
Yeah. Okay. So one
Right
of
beside
those.
me on my desk here.
So Guan means what, group?
Gate.
And Z, a
Uh,
gate, and
so
the other one is getting in the gate, or
Yeah,
right?
so basically Guangxi is really it's not as uniquely Chinese as people think. I mean, it's a Chinese concept, but it's not that much different from the sort of old boys club in the UK or the US, or it's your connections and how you utilize your connections to grow your business. And it's sort of classmates is a very big one. So people you went to school with, people in your network that you can call on for favors, but it's almost like a scale of I call on you for a favor, no different from the way it works maybe in the US or the UK. And it's like a reciprocity. So, I call on you for a favor, you call on me for a favor, and we try and keep that in balance. It's when it's out of balance that the sort of the Guangxi is lost. But it's a very unique concept in the way that it almost came about because the legal system was non-existent. So it was a way of balancing. It's a multi-thousand-year-old concept, but it's a way of protecting yourself, and building your networks and calling on people. I'm here in Vancouver and I don't have a lot. I've spent a few years in Vancouver. I have a pretty decent network in Vancouver, but when I need to call on people for favors, it's not as strong as it is in China or perhaps the UK. So these kind of systems work in different ways in different markets. But Guangxi is a very Chinese concept, and other parts of Asia as well.
Talking with Dr. Andrew Woods, what's the website that people can look at?
Yeah, they can look at One Belt, One Road.
With number one or written out?
Written out, fully written out. One Belt, One Road.ca. Also, the UK site is onebeltoneroad.co.uk.
So this refers to the Chinese historic trade route.
The new version of that, which was originally called One Belt, One Road, when I purchased the website, I thought I had a real winner there. It's now changed to Belt and Road Initiative. And I always tell the joke, which is a true story, that they had the Belt and Road Forum. Unfortunately, they didn't realize that was the BARF Forum. So all of the slogans and logos were BARF, come to the BARF Forum. Someone quickly caught on to that and it changed. But it's a massive, much larger than the Marshall Plan, a massive infrastructure plan going through Central Europe, Eurasia, Southeast Asia as well, and using that excess capacity in China to build out railroads, highways, bridges. It's had a lot of positive feedback. It's also had a lot of negativity recently. It's been called debt trap diplomacy by some people. It's been called a great concept by other people. It depends on which way you look at it, but it's a multi-trillion dollar investment strategy. The U.S. has come up with, I believe it's Build Back Better is their internal plan to increase infrastructure spending and quality of infrastructure. But they're also doing some things with the European Union as well to try and compete with the Belt and Road Initiative. So it's which is, in my estimation, is great. If we can build infrastructure globally through multiple people competing, that's a good form of competition, I think.
Yeah, everybody wins.
Yeah.
So I thank you for spending your valuable time here with me again, and I welcome you to come back and do more. But so let's talk about communication, okay? Because this is what it's really all about. How to communicate across cultures. But being in business, it's different than every day, right?
Sure.
Because I mean, people want to achieve something other than just learning how to say something better.
Okay. So business depends. Okay, so if let's use China as an example. If you're going to do business, if you decide with your now famous pen company that you were talking about earlier, if you decide that you're going to head over to China, you're probably going to work through an interpreter, or the people you're dealing with, especially in the bigger cities, Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, they're going to speak a level of English, and they're going to have some a deeper knowledge of Western concepts. So they're going to be able to understand you better than if you were to decide that you want to go do business in one of the smaller cities in China. So there's that kind of, in the business world, there's that benefit that you'll either going to have people that have knowledge, particularly useful if you're coming from an English speaking country, because a lot of people in China speak English to varying degrees in the business world. Don't get me wrong, if I drop you in the center of Shanghai, you're probably going to struggle a little bit to get the things you need, depending on where you go. If you're in a five-star hotel, people are going to be able to communicate with you, but on the street, you're going to struggle a little bit with the language, and that's fine. But person to person, I think there's a larger gap in the cultural space. I mean, the behavior and the way things are done in America and UK, Canada, Western world is quite different from the way things are done in China. So it's very easy to offend. I recall one of my first business meetings in China, where I went to a university in Wuhan, which is now a pretty well-known city, for the wrong reasons maybe. But I went to the Wuhan University, and I was going around with my cup, and I was clinking everybody's glasses. And in the UK, it's very acceptable to clink the glass above the person's glass. And everyone seemed to be, happy and enjoying. There was a lot of drinking going on. That's just a way of the meeting, the culture, the business culture at that particular meeting, and or Chinese business culture, that you drink after the dinner or the event. Anyway, I was clinking my glasses. I would in the UK, and I was running around going to different people and meeting with different people. And my classmate, actually, who I'd been working with for a while, my classmate from the UK, who's a Chinese fellow, pulled me aside and said, "Don't do that, don't do that." I said, "Well, don't do what?" And he said, "You're smashing the top of their glasses." And he goes, "That's an insult." I thought, "What? How is that an insult?" But actually, it signifies that I'm suggesting that I'm above them in stature, or above them in society, if you will. Such a small thing, right? So I then realized that you clink below the person's glass as a sign of respect. How do you know that unless
Right.
somebody tells you that or explains that to you? That's the importance of cross-cultural communication, is learning these different small things that can be the difference between deal breakers and not deal breakers. US
Well,
people
this
think,
is terrific, practical information, easy to
mm,
get.
mm, mm,
I
mm.
can just picture it.
Yeah. So very quickly, a lot of US companies go into China or go into Vietnam even, and they go with this attitude of what works in the US works in China or Vietnam. And it's not the case. They need to take the time to learn the market that they're going into. And even as I said earlier, even if you're going into the UK, take some time to understand that. People love, in my experience, when you talk about them. So ask people about maybe UK football. Spend a little time reading about the Premiership League, or find common areas that you can bond, and your business will grow. Your business will boom in those markets.
Now you have it out there, audience. Contact Dr. Andrew Woods. And what's that website again?
Oh, onebeltoneroad.ca.
Got it. And you see the name right there, so you can find him easily on LinkedIn. and you'll find a lot of info there. And if you need me to make an intro, contact Ed. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Have a good one.
You too.
Come back. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This is Ed in San Diego, and that's Dr. Andrew Woods in Vancouver, BC. Ciao. Oh, say goodbye in Chinese.
再见.
Oh, okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.